another Talk About It Tuesday. And this question really challenged me. I had to really go back and dig and come up with an answer that I believe is solid. So listen to this question. If you could change one thing about an unsuccessful person's mindset, what would it be? All right, so let's just create some guidelines first. When we talk about success or unsuccessful, there are a lot of ways to find success, right? You can be a successful anything, but because the group is geared towards wealth building and financial freedom, we're going to use that as a measure of success. And that's really where I have my experience. I started Insiders Group in 2004. And even before that, I was doing free workshops in my basement. So I've been able to really track thousands and thousands of people over the last basically 20 years and really observe who could find success and who didn't find success when we're talking about wealth building and financial freedom. And anybody of average intelligence, and I've had people with less than average intelligence find success. And I've had people who you would consider a genius who just couldn't get it done. And some of the more common things you would assume it to be in terms of mindset, work ethic, it is not work ethic. Ambition, it is not ambition or lack of ambition. So it's not a lack of work ethic. It's not a lack of ambition. It's not a lack of desire or wanting it enough. It's not a lack of pursuing the skills. It's not, all those things that you would assume it to be. And those do play a factor, but they're not the number one factor. And the number one factor that I've discovered it to be is that most of us don't have an ability to go beyond the limitations set by our environment. And when I say our environment, I mean every facet of what exposed you when you were growing up to the limitations that you have. So I'll just use myself as an example. So it's no secret, I grew up in the East New York section of Brooklyn, which way back then and to this day is one of the most depressing areas of New York City. Economically depressed, socially depressed, politically depressed. It's not a place where you see a lot of success, right? If we're using, again, our standard. And so everything in my environment told me that I could not be successful. And what do I mean by that? When I went to school, my teachers all agreed. They said, you're a smart guy. You can be a teacher one day, right? They couldn't see beyond their own limitation. So their idea of the most I could be was what they were, because they saw that as the limit. And so they put me in the Future Teachers Program. Nobody put me in the Future Entrepreneurs Program because there wasn't one. No one put me in the Future Bankers Program. No one put me in the, the Future Investors Program because those things didn't exist. Not where I came from. And so that wasn't even on the menu of options for me. The greatest I could aspire to be in my teacher's mind was what they became. And then if I went back to my neighborhood, it was, okay, try to be what your parents are or just a step beyond. So most of the parents, my friends' parents, were all blue-collar workers. They had good jobs, right? What we call good jobs. But that was their limitation. And their thing was, okay, we did blue-collar work, which is basically working with our back and our hands. You do white-collar work, right? Maybe you get a job in an office. So that was the limitation, right? Because they couldn't really see beyond that. No one said, go try to get an MBA or go get a job on Wall Street or go get an internship at a Fortune 500 company. Those discussions didn't exist. So my parents didn't offer that. My friends' parents didn't offer that. My teachers didn't offer that. There was nothing in my neighborhood that suggested I could be successful. Of course, there were small businesses, but no one owned a business with more than a handful of employees. Sure, we had, the bodega, and we had the, variety store and, maybe a hair salon and barbershop, laundromat, those things, but they weren't big businesses employing many people with, management structures and anything like that. So that wasn't even an example. So the examples, even if you wanted to get into business, were small businesses, mom and pop. Went to college. Most of my peers who had a similar upbringing to me, when we finished college, they got blue collar jobs anyway. they were working for the phone company or, recycling plants, some of them, jobs that they could have gotten, even if they hadn't gone to college, because again, they got the education, they got the degree, the certificate, but they still couldn't move beyond the boundaries of the limitation of the environment that the environment set for them. And so they still ended up being those, what the limit was. So for me, what broke that for me, I did the same thing. I became what my teacher said I could become. I became a teacher at first. It wasn't until my mindset shifted, not why I decided to shift, but it wasn't until I decided that I could become more than the boundaries, than the limitations that everything in my environment said I could be. When I looked beyond everything in my neighborhood, when I looked past, the career options and the political choices, when I looked past all of those things, not only was I able to see another world, I was able to accept that I could be a part.